Okay guys, I'm going to show you how to make this summertime freezer pop cozy with the loop so that you can hang it up in your home. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started on this freezer pop cozy. And again, we're going to first work on the actual loop that we want to have to be able to kind of hang it up on a nail, on a thumbtack, on a hook that you might have on your wall if you want to be able to air dry it out between uses. And before I would just use the 2 strings from the cast on and the cast off to tie, but I want to do something a little different this time. So we're going to cast on just one side of this loom. I have it set in the round for 18 pegs around, and this is the sock loom from Knitting Board. I actually like this loom because you can make baby hats on it. You can do these freezer pop cozies pretty well. You can do washcloths if you want. You can do kind of scarves if you want, because you make them as wide as you want. It's a little easier to do smaller projects on, but don't hesitate to try using this loom as like a flat panel to make like a scarf or something as well if you want to do more of a lightweight scarf, because of the way it's configured. And I just have regular weight of 4 worsted weight yarn. This is like a baby blue color that I kind of had on hand. And what's great about these freezer pop cozies is it gives you a chance to use up yarn. So these are great. Making freezer pop cozies is a great kind of scrap yarn project, because I know we all have leftover yarn. It's not quite enough to do a hat, not quite enough to do a scarf, but it's actually the perfect size, perfect amount to do some of these freezer pop cozies. Again, I'm going to show you this. This is what I have left over. I am barely going to use any of this. I could probably make it quite a few out of this little bit that I have left. So I don't know exactly how much yarn this would be, but I would definitely say you're going to need just a little cake of yarn to do it up with. It's not going to require a huge amount of yarn like other projects. So again, if you have some yarn lying around, let's go ahead and use it. And like I said, we're going to do this in just the just across the front rows right there to do our loop first. So we do our slip knot. Okay, and then we're just going to drop it here on this first peg. And what I'm actually going to do this time is I'm not going to let this hang down. I'm actually going to grab it and work it back and forth along these rows. And since this doesn't have to be too cute, you could choose to do the garter stitch back and forth, but I'm just going to keep it a very simple E-wrap for those that are beginning loom knitting. So I'm grabbing my tail yarn as well so I can hide it into the project easier. And I'm just going to go around, do the E-wrap cast on for these front row pegs here. And it's okay if you lose it, you can trim that later. And then we're just going to push these down, and we're going to work our way back across. It's been so long since I've knitted. Okay. Go way back across. Kind of hold that in place. Grab your looming tool. I have a lot of questions about my looming hook. This was actually found on Amazon in the automotive section. I had a review for it because it's a Sheffield brand I bought a while ago. So they're mainly made for auto work, but they work really well for me for using it as a looming tool. It's very sharp, so I would not let a kid play with these to loom with. But I will try to link the product review I did video down below, so make sure you check out the description box for that if you're interested. And then all we're going to do, we're just going to knit over. I'm holding it at a weird angle so it makes it a little tricky. Get over there. Fine, I'll go over here. I'll start over here then. So it doesn't want to go over that way, we'll start over this way. Alright. Knit over. Knit over. Knit over. Knit over. Come along this side and go ahead and knit it over as well. Okay, that's the first row. And again, you can hide the little straggle that's left over from the cast on row. You can trim it now, or you can wait till it gets a little further down when we bring it up. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to work our way back and forth to make our little tab to be able to bring up and make our loop. So like I said, I'm just doing straight E-wrap for this because I feel like it'd be the easiest to do. So we're going to work our way back over. Hold our working yarn in place. Don't pull it too tight. A lot of people have issues with knitting stuff over if you end up putting too much tension on your yarn when you're working it. So try not to hold it over too tight, and then go ahead. And this is slightly older yarn, so it's going to fray a little bit on me. But again, it's perfect for doing these kind of projects. So I'm going to hold this down and knit you over. Why are you fighting me? Get over there. There we go. Does not usually fight me this much. It's been a while since I've done loom knitting, so I guess it's practice for me again too. So again, we're just going to knit over. And we're keeping it just simple and E-wrap for right now, but again, as I mentioned, you could switch up and do the garter, and then you push it back down and work our way back across again. And so we're just wrapping the pegs on our way back up, holding it in place. And again, keep in mind, when I'm holding at a different angle than I would be if I was off camera, so that's why it's a little trickier for me sometimes to knit over, because I'm not holding it the same way, a natural way I should say. So don't get discouraged. Okay, so over here, get this one knit over. Okay, and push that down. And as you can see on the inside, it's kind of starting to create this little tab that we're going to be able to use to bring back up. And it's going to be kind of a wide tab, so I figure perfect for, depending on how long your nail is. It's basically giving you an opportunity to have a loop to attach onto something to make it easier to dry. So now I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to keep doing that same thing, just back and forth for this many rows, and then I'll come back and show you how we finish making the loop. Okay, after you completed the 15 rows, so we have our little tab here, what I did, because I know when we started, if you remember, this was down here, because we do 18 and around. But because I want to be able to make this a tab, or bring this tab of yarn up to re-put it back on these pegs, I just simply loosened this button and slid this out of my way for the time being, so that I could reach back in and get it. Let me make sure I'm going that way. There we go. Okay, so then you're just going to move your working yarn out of the way, over to the side. You're going to reach down and grab the yarn that we made. And again, if you want to at this time get rid of this little loop, just simply go ahead. I don't have the best scissors next to me, and just trim it now. It's not going to cause an issue. And then you're going to take these loops and you're going to put them right back on the peg. They're not going to go across all of them. We're basically just going to be putting them where we can fit them, because it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're just going to look for the beginning row and you're going to place loops back on those pegs. So I'm just looking for loops and I'm just grabbing them and placing them back on. Make sure you get a good full loop and not a straggler. So you want to get a loop in the first row and put it back on. And it's okay if it doesn't go all of them over. We just want to bring them back up so that we can lock this loop, so this will be our loop, in place for the project. So once you've managed to get some across, again, you can try to stretch it over all of them. However you want, you're just bringing that tab back up and attaching those beginning loops onto pegs, and then you're knitting over. This is going to lock this in place for our loop to be able to hang this with. And again, if you don't like how wide this is, just cast on less pegs. If you don't want it this big of a loop, because again, it's going to have some stretch to it, then simply just decrease the amount of pegs you cast on, decrease the amount of rows that you do, so you can modify this pretty easy to whatever way is going to kind of work for you. I just wanted to create a big enough tab so that if I'm putting it on a nail, or if I got a hook that's going to go through there, however way I may want to attach this to something later. So we're going to put that back down. That's going to go back down there out of the way. Now we have to work on the body of the Freezer Pop Cozy. So we need to move this back, so we're going to loosen this up and get this back down to our 18 and around. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure it's lined up so it's 18 and around. Tighten your thing at the end so it doesn't move on you too much. And what we're going to do is now we got to work around this whole loop area to make the body of the Freezer Pop Cozy. I was going to use stitch markers and kind of get all fancy, but I actually think I want to keep it really simple. But this is just a tip. If you want to make a different design, like say you want a garter stitch or you want to do a rib stitch, get yourself some stitch markers. These are the ones I use. They're just simple. I think I got these years ago at like my Joann Fabrics. They're just regular little loop ones that you've probably seen me use a bazillion times. They probably have these kind online. But if you want to, you can use these and modify the design the way you want. But again, I wanted this to be super, super simple. So I'm just going to do a few rows of E-wrap. And then I'm going to probably change it up. I may actually incorporate. I like to design as I go. That's one thing you guys probably don't know. So like right now, I just want to do a few rows of E-wrap to get this in the round, and then I may actually pull some of these out and we might do a little design a little later on. I haven't decided exactly how I want to do this, so I'm kind of designing as I go, which I always think is fun, and I hope you guys try that yourself sometime. Like, don't always be such a stickler for a pattern. Just pick up a loom and just kind of go with the flow, and that's what this kind of is. That's why I'm keeping it kind of simple, but I probably will incorporate these at least in a little bit. I just want to get this casted on completely before I go adding any particular design. So I'm just going to do the E-wrap. Now remember, when you wrap it around the first time, these pegs will have 2 loops, but the rest of them only have 1. So you're going to need to that's why it's going to take a little time to go around it. So you're going to take your working yarn, making sure your tab's kind of tucked down in, out of the way. And we're just going to give it a minute here to make sure it focused. And we're just going to take our working yarn and we're going to go all the way around our pegs. Now if this comes out wider or more stretchy than you like, you can adjust how many pegs over you go. I would rather have the Freezer Pop Cozie be kind of big, because you figure there's different types of freezer pops out there that I've seen, so this will allow a little bit of stretch and give if there's bigger ones or smaller ones, and it really doesn't matter if it's a snug fit or not. It's just to take the place of using a paper towel or using a washcloth, and it's a little cuter than those items are. So it's okay if it ends up being a little bigger. So we're just working our way in the round, getting back to our starting point. And remember, watch your tension. It's probably the biggest thing that people forget. Okay, and I'm just going to add dirt on my hand. I'm washing dishes and I guess I forgot the back of my hands got a little dirt on them. Okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to knit over these that have the 2 pegs. Or 2 loops, sorry. Okay. And now we're going to go around one more time so the other pegs can have 2 loops and be casted on completely in the round. And I hope you guys have checked out some of my other videos that I've done. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of future videos. I'm really hoping for 2021 to be a lot better year than last year in terms of making videos for you guys. So make sure you hit that notification button so you know when I'm putting them up. And hit the like button if you think you're going to make a bunch of these for summertime. So again, we're just working our way around till we get back to the beginning, being mindful of our tension. Okay, so once you get back to the beginning, kind of hold your working yarn in place, not too snugly, and go ahead and knit that over. And do that all the way around. And I hope you guys join for the next video I'm going to be doing. I'm kind of excited about it. It's been in my head for like quite a while actually. So I will be tackling that almost as soon as I'm done with this video, and I really hope you guys like the next project. It'll be a little different than I've done before, and so I just hope you guys will enjoy that. I have a few other things up my sleeves that I'd like to film this year, so it's really important that you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified. I appreciate everyone that subscribes to my channel. And push this all down. Now this is where we have the choice. We can keep doing E-wrap like I said, or we can mix it up. I told you, I like to mix things up. I actually think I'm going to go around and do the purl stitch this time, just to kind of help the edge have a little bit of a different detail. That's what's always kind of fun about projects, is just kind of design as you go. So this is kind of almost like a Loom with me type video. So let's go ahead and let's do the purl stitch. This time, if you remember, the purl is going under the pegs. I'm make sure I get in here, because I know some people have trouble with this. You're taking your looming hook and you're going in the loop. Take your working yarn and go under it, turning your tool, coming up, so you see how you create a nice loop? Then this is the loop that you put onto the peg. So you remove it and put it on, remove the old loop, put the new one on when you're purling. So you see we're making our loop, and then we're taking the whole loop off and putting that new loop on. So we're going to continue this, going around the loom. Okay. The trouble with purling on the inner ones, I think that's what most people have trouble with when you're doing something like this in a round, is doing those inside ones. But again, it's all about finding what way is comfortable for you. to hold the loom. And again, when somebody's doing a video like this, they're holding it in different ways than they wouldn't normally hold it. So if it looks like I'm having struggle, keep in mind that I'm also holding it differently than I would if I didn't have a camera in front of me. But you guys don't realize that this camera right here is pretty much sitting between my legs so I can see what I'm doing. So it's definitely not the best position for me for looming. But again, when you want to go on the inside, if you lay it down like this, you can kind of see. But again, when you're holding it yourself, it's going to be in a lot better position. We're doing the same thing, one peg at a time. So I'm just kind of working on the inside. You can see I'm just kind of working on the inside area. And what I love is sometimes the simplicity, I can't say the word, how simple and different someone can look just doing knitting and purls. It's not always in loom knitting about how fancy you can get. That's what I love about my channel, is I do try to keep things pretty simple, pretty basic, because I don't want anyone to feel like they can't do a project if you keep things pretty simple. I know there's a lot of other loom teachers out there that can get a lot more in depth and more creative than me, and that's what I think we all kind of showcase our skill sets. And I feel like mine is just trying to keep things simple and to show what you can do with as little knowledge as you know. That doesn't mean I've never done anything a little more complicated off camera. But if I don't feel like I can showcase it that well, then I don't share it with you guys, because if I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, now I'm back to where I can do it easier. 2, 3. We gotta be careful too, because sometimes, even though this has been tightened, it may lose its spot. So make sure you're just checking that this is still, so you don't end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, you want to check, because there's been times that this has slid on me out like this, and I've accidentally done an extra peg by accident. So really keep an eye, because sometimes over time it does loosen and it can move without loosening it up. So really check that to make sure you're still lined up to be your 18 and around. Okay, we are back to the beginning. So now we're going to do the E-wrap knit. You can also change up and try doing the U-knit or the flat knit. It's going to make it tighter of a tube, but I just wanted to give you guys an example. You can switch up the kind of knit you're doing. I'm just keeping it E-wrap for now. So now I'm going to do another row of E-wrap. Like I said, our tail's coming through in the bottom, so we got a little loop coming through. And then we're going to go ahead and just wrap around. Now you can choose to stop after one side and knit it over and work in sections. Sometimes that works good for people, just because that way if you mess up, you can frog it back easier. And frogging means just to kind of work your way back to a mistake that you made. So, okay, so we're over on this side, so I'm just going to wrap this side. Okay, I'm just going to wrap this side now. And sometimes people find this easier to wrap in sections versus wrapping the whole row. And again, making sure you get all the loop over. When you have older yarn like I'm using, it can do that. But you don't get discouraged. Just take your time and just work one section at a time. I know it's like we want to use up that yarn we have, so some yarn stays in our stash for quite a while. Okay, so we're working over to here. Like I said, the inner one's a little tricky. Okay, and we're just going to knit it over. Okay, and then we got our last little section over here. Okay, so go ahead and knit that over. Okay. Now normally a garter can be worked over like 4 rows, but it's okay. I just wanted to do a little bit of something different at the beginning. Now we got to stop and think, how do we want to do the body of the freezer pop cozy? I'm actually thinking I should use these just to show you guys, and I think what I'm only going to do is make sure they're only on these ends. Because sometimes working in the middle can be tricky, when you have a stitch marker there, sometimes for me it can catch a lot easier. So I'm going to add stitch markers just to the 4 pegs I have on the sides. This is going to give it a little different look, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to purl the 4 stitches on that and keep these as E-wrap. So that I think will change it up a little bit. So what I like about these stitch markers, and you can pick different colors, I'll try to get the purple ones, is that they hook. I'm hoping I can show you. It zooms in enough. Let's zoom in. They have like a little hook or a little hole, so you can kind of attach them together onto the peg. So I'm only doing the 4 sides, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to put these pegs, or these loops, stitch markers. I really can't talk today. These stitch markers in there. So what I like about these is they're flexible, so you can kind of just wrap it around it, and usually it finds its way back on the other side. I mean, sometimes I don't even need to loop them closed. Come here. Thank you. And I usually like to try to make sure I put them on all the pegs, even though I could just put them here and say, hey, just do the purl on those. I want to make sure I have a loop or a stitch marker on each one, because otherwise I may forget, because I'm going to only purl on these ones and I'm going to knit on the other ones. Like I said, this is kind of a loom with me. We're kind of designing as we go here, so let's see what we end up with. It does not usually fight me this much. I haven't used these stitch markers in a while. But see how I use my looming tool to get in there to get that little, I don't know how well you can see it, there's a little hole. I use my looming tool to get it to where I need it to be. So let me quickly go off camera and I'll get the rest of these on. Again, I'm only putting on 1, 2, 3, 4 pegs, 1, 2, 3, 4 pegs. Only put your stitch markers on this side and this side. Leave these empty and we'll be right back. Okay, we've got the stitch markers on. Again, we're going to purl where there's the stitch markers, which is just on the sides, and we're going to E-wrap knit across the ones that are in this side and this side. And that's what we're going to do for the body of it. I think that's how I want to keep it until it's time to take it off the loom. So what you're going to do again is you're just going to go ahead and you're going to E-wrap these, purl the sides, E-wrap, purl the sides for this many rows, and then we'll be ready to take this off the loom. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll meet you back here when it's time to take this off. Okay guys, after doing 25 rows, following the pattern of purling on the purple and E-wrapping on the non-stitch parts, we are ready to take this off the loom. We could, if you had wanted to, you could do a couple rows that are back to doing like the little bit of garter we did at the beginning, but I'm not too concerned about that. So I'm going to actually remove my stitch markers now, because they'll make taking this off a lot easier. So let's just go ahead and remove the stitch markers, and I lost my case. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm just going to put my stitch markers over here to the side, and we're just going to remove them off of the loom so that we can cast it off. If you want to, you could do another row of E-wrap, which I think we might actually just do 1 row of E-wrap before we fully take this off the loom, just to make it kind of easier, I guess. Alright, 2 more. Okay, I like it. There we go, there's the 2 more. And last one. Okay, so we're going to quickly do 1 more row of E-wrap knit before we take this off. And in the meantime, make sure you have a crochet hook ready and a pair of scissors ready for when we go to take this off. So we're just going to do a simple E-wrap row before we take this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and go back and knit over. I'll kind of work my way around like we talked about before. Just wrapping and then taking the bottom loop over the top. So I'm going to do this all the way around until I get to my starting point again. Oops, I lost my little loop. Get back up there. Rewrap that one. There we go. Sometimes that happens, you get a little mistake and you just got to quickly try to fix it. Alright, now we have the inside, which we always know is a little trickier to do, unless I'm off camera. So because it's on camera, it's a little tricky. So we're going to work the middle and knit this off right now. Or excuse me, not knit it off, but E-wrap it. Knit over. Almost back to the beginning. Okay, last pegs here. Now to take this off the loom, we're going to do the crochet cast off with 2 chains in between. We're actually going to do the whole process on the loom, but you need your crochet hook for the last little part when we go to take it off. but we can actually do the crochet cast off using our looming tool and stuff, so we don't need the crochet hook right at the beginning like normal, even though you could do that if you're doing a flat panel. Okay. Or even in the round, you could use a crochet hook to do the same thing we're going to do now, but I am just going to, use the method I've talked about before. So we're going to wrap it once. I've done the crochet, so you wrap it once, wrap it twice. Now I want you to go ahead and move it over to the next peg. Okay, do the same thing, once, twice, move it over to the next peg. Okay, and continue this all the way around till you get back to this peg right here, and then we'll finish it off. Okay, we're getting ready to finish this off. Alright, I'm getting ready to move this over to this peg. Okay, we knit it over. Number 2. Okay, and I'll move it over to the last peg. Knit it over. Now what I want you to do this time is to take your crochet hook and take this loop off of this last peg, take the loop off of this last peg, and put it on your crochet hook. I am using an F crochet hook because it's the only one that I saw near me. So once you get it off the loom, you kind of want to connect the ending peg or ending stitch to the beginning where we started. So you're going to do your 1 chain, your 2 chain, okay, and then we're going to go find the beginning over here. Oops, that's too much. Let me see. Get editing here. Okay, get to your beginning loop, and then take this back. So once you get it in there, take the back over the front. And now you want to cut yourself some yarn. Just want to cut it right there, it doesn't really matter where. And now we're going to take this and we want to bring it through. Okay, so I'm going to bring it through. And what I usually like to do is I usually like to add a knot, or what I'll do is I'll go over here next to it, and I'll kind of bring that working tail kind of thing through a little bit, just to kind of weave it in. And if you're concerned that it's not secure enough, you can actually just kind of pick another random spot, bring it through almost all the way, and then kind of take your tails and kind of just tie them together in a little knot. And usually double knot it. And once that's done, just go ahead and trim that yarn because you don't need it. And that can kind of be tucked inside a little bit. And here we have our Freezer Pop Cozy. Again, with doing the purl on the sides, we get a nice little, a little design aspect. But you could do it all in E-wrap, all in purl. And again, this is our loop, our loop for like hanging it up on a thumbnail, or not thumbnail, thumbtack, or a nail, or if you've got a hook, you can do the hook through there. But also if a kid is using it, they could even put their finger in it when they're holding on to it, and it can be like a little handle. And again, it's for a freezer pop, so I thought I'd bring one to show you. When you go to put it in, just be careful of like catching the yarn. So it just goes right on. And like I said, it can be a little big, it can be a little small, you can make it smaller, and that's all it does. Let me zoom out here if I can. And that's all it does, is it covers it, and you can use this instead, so you can get an idea of how long we made it. You can decide to make them a little shorter if you want for kids, but I like to make it long because you figure if this is at the bottom of the freezer, a typical freezer pop, it's going to cover almost all the way halfway up. But it just saves you using paper towels, it saves you using a washcloth, and kids kind of like these. My child actually really likes when we have the popsicles and she goes in and she, you know, likes to grab one of these, so she will probably confiscate this one and put it and use it when she likes, because she'll like the fact that there's like purling edge here and how there's a little raised up, and she'll probably laugh at the little loop. That again, they can put their finger in it if they want, you know, to hold on to it a little more. You know, some kids will just use that as a fidgeting thing, but like I said, it's just to be able to hang it up, and this way we don't have our normal strings that I normally did on my other ones. So I hope you kind of like this. Yes, it's a Welch's fruit. This is only like it's a pineapple one. Anyone else like pineapple? Or I don't know if I'm really crazy over the pineapple for flavors for freezer pops, but this is what it looks like. And like I said, it's a cute, fun, quick little project you can do, and they're great for around the house. And the best thing I would say is if you got a lot of kids, make these in duplicates. And I have at least 2 other designs for Freezer Pops Cozy. You can check my website or check on my channel listing under the household, and there's another one I did a video for, but the quality wasn't as good. So I kind of wanted to update it. I always think it's kind of fun to update these videos. But again, this is our Freezer Pop Cozy, and I don't really have a pattern for it, so I think I'm just going to call it like a summertime cozy. That's what the name of this is going to be. Summertime cozy. Like I said, it's perfect for adults or kids. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. And make sure, if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of future videos. And please hit the like button too if you are planning on doing some of these again for the summer, like I mentioned before. And I hope everyone is having a great day.